So welcome to our YouTube channel. That's what we call the good life. We're coming into March and it's a really exciting time where we can start to plant a few more things, and in this video I'm going to be showing you or giving you some options of some of the things you can sow or plant in the month of March. Now spring is just around the corner and it is still really quite cold, so I'm not going to be planting lots and lots of things. I will just be planting a few. Typically I plant a few things every single month, so it basically staggers it out. So the things that are more tolerant I'll plant a little bit earlier, and then gradually as the months go on I'll plant more and more, which brings me on to, if you've not already subscribed to my channel, if you could please do so, because you'll get lots of helpful hints and tips all throughout the year from my allotment, my home garden, and from time to time my home kitchen. Now one of the things I'm going to start getting out in March is going to be my potato seeds. Now my potatoes are currently chitting in my conservatory. Now if you don't know what chitting is, basically chitting is preparing them ready to plant them. You don't have to chit, but if you've got your potatoes early I would recommend chitting them so they're in the right environment, because if you keep them in the wrong environment the little shoots could get too straggly. So chitting, basically I lay them out on egg boxes, or they could easily just be a tray or something in a cool light place but not in direct sunlight, and it must be frost free, basically to get them ready so that I can plant them soon. Now if you get them last minute and you don't have time to chit, you can just plant them straight into the ground, but typically most gardeners do like to chit. It's one of those first things that we can do to start to get ready for the coming season, and it does give you a little bit of a head start if you do get a chance to chit. And chitting, all you're trying to do is produce small shoots, not great big long straggly shoots. That's why you keep them in a cool light place and you don't keep them in the dark, because if you kept them in the dark they'd get quite long straggly shoots. Mine are really ready to go in soon, and again I won't plant them all in one go. I'll space them out over the next few weeks, putting my first earlies in first, which are my Aran pilot, so that will be in the next few weeks, and then I'll plant the rest of them between probably the middle of March and the middle to the end of April, going on to my second earlies and then my late potatoes. The other things that you can be sowing either direct into the ground or you can sow them into module trays are your onion sets. Now I've got some onion sets here that I've started off in module trays. I typically do just plant them straight into the ground in March, but I got them a little bit earlier and I thought I'd try them in module trays just to see whether they do any better than when I pop them straight into the ground. So it's a little bit of an experiment for me, but probably over the next month I will transfer those and plant them out into my allotment in the next month or two probably. So moving on to seeds that you can be sowing. Now there are lots and lots of seeds you can be sowing this time of the year. I will run through a selection of seeds, and at the end I will tell you the ones that I'm personally going to be sowing myself, to give you an idea of what I prefer to sow. But obviously if you want to sow something else, then that's completely up to you. What I would recommend is I'm going to go through quite a lot of seeds. Pick about 5 that you want to plant this month, because you've got loads more months to stagger this over if you're going to be planting quite a few things. Now something that I find completely invaluable is a heated propagator. So that is the base, and I have a lid here. It is a heated one, so obviously it doesn't live in my greenhouse. I will take it indoors to use it. Mine is quite an old rickety one. I have 2, whereby I start my seedlings off on here, and as soon as they've germinated I will take the lid off and either just leave it in the tray or move them into separate trays. Most of the things that we're starting off aren't very frost tolerant, so I'm keeping things either in my main house or in my conservatory, because my greenhouse isn't heated. So unless what you're sowing is quite tolerant, it needs to be somewhere warm for the time being. I will put a link up on this description, not for this propagator because this is a very ancient one, but it is one of the best things I've bought. It's really helped me grow my seeds and got much better germination through using a heated propagator, so it's well worth the investment. We have an Amazon shop and we do make a little bit of money out of it, I do have to tell you, but it does help me keep the channel running. So if you would like to get one, there will be a link up on the screen, and there will also be one in the description if you would like to get one for yourself. So let's pop that back down there. Something else that's really useful, because I get a lot of people asking me what are good books. The Allotment Month by Month by Alan Buckingham is an absolute fantastic book. Everybody recommends it, everybody loves it. It's incredibly informative and really easy to follow. And again, there will be a link up on the screen and there will be one in the description as well. So a very, very useful book if you're a newbie out there, or maybe a more seasoned gardener that just fancies a new book. Because I've got other books as well. It's not the only book I've got, but this is a really nice one. So I'm now going to go through some of the seeds you can be planting in March, and I'm also going to be planting my top 5 seeds for March as well. So let's get started. So there's a whole list of brassicas you can be starting this time of year. Anything from cauliflowers to cabbages to Brussels to kale, one of my favourite staples, kale. I like to do 2 types. I like to do the more flat leaf variety, and I also like to do the curly variety, an absolute staple in our house and it's ridiculously easy to grow. Something else you can be starting off this month are carrots. Now you can start these off in module trays, or you could direct sow them. I personally will wait a little bit longer before I sow these, but when I used to grow more things in my home garden, I did plant more things straight in March. But up at the allotment it's much colder, and I find that it fares a little bit better if I wait a little bit longer. But if you're just planting things in your home garden, then you could quite easily put some carrots in now. There's some really good carrot fly resistant varieties there. I've got Flyaway F1, which is a really good resistant variety. This one isn't resistant, it's an heirloom mixture which I grew last year, which is absolutely gorgeous. With carrot fly, I will say that I use a piece of Enviromesh over my carrots, and that's been my biggest help with getting rid of carrot fly, and far exceeds anything else that I ever tried. I mean, obviously you can companion plant, and you can still companion plant with things like onions and spring onions, but popping a bit of Enviromesh over the top is absolutely fantastic. I will put a link up on the screen and one in the description if you've not got any Enviromesh already. So something else you can be doing this month, either direct sowing or in module trays, are radishes. Absolutely fantastic to do. There are so many different varieties of radishes. I've only got a couple here, but you can even get some rainbow coloured ones. They have far more flavour than anything you would get in a supermarket. So if you've never tried radishes, whether you do it this month, next month or the month after, they really are something that are really worth trying. And there's so many dishes that you can put them in. You know, we all think about salads, but they can go in stir fries. The larger varieties, you can mash them and do all sorts of weird and wonderful things with them. One of my favourites is definitely beetroot, and I love growing different varieties of beetroot. I've got Golden Eye there, I've got Detroit 2, I've got Bolt Hardy, which is a very popular one because it does exactly what it says. It doesn't bolt very easily. Absolutely fantastic. I won't be starting any of this off this month. Again, I probably will wait a couple of months, but again, if you want to direct sow some or start some off in some module trays, you can completely do that. It's a really good month to be doing it in. Turnip, good old-fashioned snowball turnips. So some people love them, some people hate them, but a really nice thing to grow, and they're an excellent source of vitamin B6 and C and full of dietary fibre. So really good vegetable, really good for you. So another one you can be starting off this month are cucumbers. Now, not all cucumbers could be started off this early, but this Market More 70 variety are a little bit more tolerant to this kind of temperature. So you could, obviously you wouldn't start them off outside, you would start them off, you know, in a heated propagator to get them going, and you would still need to keep them frost free. But you can start these ones off a little bit earlier if you want to. Something else you could start off if you wanted to are all sorts of different salad leaves. Again, I'd start them off in a propagator to get them started. I've got a mixed variety there. I've got some rocket. I've got some sorrel, which isn't technically a lettuce, but it's something you can use as a salad leaf. So there's all different kinds of things, salad varieties you can be starting off now. And the other thing that I would be starting off, if you haven't started this off already, which I have, are your peppers. So your chili peppers, your sweet peppers, and also your aubergines. Mine are currently in my kitchen under grow lights, which is one of my most recent purchases. I've put off buying grow lights because I like to grow things as naturally as I can, but I was finding that they just weren't flourishing as much as I wanted them to. So we got some grow lights. They were under £20 from Amazon. Really, really impressive, and I think I'm going to buy another set because I'm going to be starting some more things off which won't be able to go out yet. And we will put a link up on the screen and one also in the description. And I also have some tomatoes started off there as well. But yeah, definitely if you haven't started your peppers off or your aubergines off yet, these are well worth doing this month because they take quite a long time before they start to fruit. That's why you need to start them off so soon. If you leave it too late, you'll just have plants, but you'll never get any fruit because it will get too cold and you'll miss the boat basically. Now moving on to the things that I'm going to be planting. So I will be planting all these things eventually, but as I said, I stagger what I grow because looking after everything is a real struggle. So to do a few things every single month and to tick things off the list is a really good way of doing it. I have an allotment planner for this, which is really, really useful. I've had to get a new one because my other one became a little bit too straggly, and this is really, really useful to make a note of what you plan on planting and to tick things off as you do it so you stay ahead, and then for next year you know what you did last year, whether you want to repeat it or whether you want to change it. We will put a link up on the screen and one in the description if you wanted to get one of those as well. So here are the seeds that I'm going to be starting off. Now, I did Cape gooseberries last year and I was really, really pleased with them. Again, this is another thing, a bit like the peppers and aubergines, you need to start them off early because if you don't, you won't get any fruit. I really thought I wasn't going to get any last year, but I did, and I started them off this month, so this is the month to start them off. So I've got my mix of compost and core. For anyone that follows me, I don't buy seed compost, I buy multi-purpose compost, and I get the core blocks and I mix the two together 50-50, and I find that's quite a good mixture for growing seeds in, and it means that it can double up and I can use it for lots of different things. Now the first thing I'm going to be starting off this month is my mange 2s. So I've got these beauties here. I love fresh peas that I grow myself. They really are quite divine. Now what I do with these first is I soak these in water overnight. I then drain them and put them between some damp tissue, and when they start to sprout I'll either then pop them into module trays or I pop them straight in the ground. And the chances are what I'm going to do is, because it's a little bit risky putting them out, and they might be okay but I'd have to fleece them if I put them outside, I often start my first lot of peas off in my greenhouse, which is what I'm going to do. So my first job will be to soak them overnight, drain them between some damp tissue, and then I will pop them along here and have my first lot of early peas in my greenhouse, hopefully quite soon. So the next thing I'm going to be starting off this month are my Cape gooseberries. Now these are very similar to peppers and aubergines in the fact that they take quite a long time before they fruit. So if you're thinking of growing some Cape gooseberries, it's well worth starting them off early. I did exactly that last year and I was really worried I wasn't going to get any, but I did actually have quite a good harvest, but it was quite late in the season and I was worried I was pushing it a bit. I grew them in pots in my greenhouse and over the allotment, and bizarrely the ones out in my allotment grew and produced far more fruit than the ones in here, and also the ones that I had in pots. In fact, the ones in the pots were an epic failure, if I'm honest. We've still got the plants in here and I'm going to see if they've overwintered and whether they shoot. At the moment they don't look great, but you never know. I'm going to cut them back and just see whether they shoot again, but in the meantime, just in case they don't, I'm going to start a few more off because I don't want to take the chance that I don't get any, basically. I started them off quite some years ago and they were an epic fail. I bought a pack of seeds, I didn't get many in a packet and none of them germinated. Now these seeds came from a friend of mine that lives in Wales, can you believe, that successfully grows Cape gooseberries. So even in the depths of Wales, where you think something like that wouldn't grow, it will grow. So I've got to carefully get them out. So I actually took them out of one of the fruits that I got from his small holding, and that's what you see here. So they're very, very tiny seeds. When I did them last year, they germinated way better than I thought they would, and I ended up giving loads and loads of plants away. So basically I've got my mixture of core and multi-purpose in this. So anyone who follows me, I don't buy seed compost. I mix multi-purpose with the coconut core that you can buy in blocks, and I find it a very good medium for sowing seeds in, and a lot easier than having seed compost and multi-purpose and lots of other things floating around. And I try and spread them out quite evenly. Some of them I have and some of them I haven't, so I'm going to move those because I don't want them quite so close together. It's better to try and not have them too close together because they'll get too straggly and will more likely get caught up with each other. So with these tiny little seeds, do try and spread them around as evenly as you can. It's not as evenly as I would like, but that will do. And then you can either cover them with more compost, or I really like to use vermiculite. I buy a great big bag, it lasts absolutely ages. I decant it into a tub like this, and then I just gently sprinkle it over the top. The reason you use something like this is because the seeds get a little bit more light and it just aids germination a little bit better than using compost. But if you haven't got vermiculite, it doesn't matter, just do a very thin layer of compost, and that's all you need to do. And I will, if you want to get some vermiculite, I will put a link up on the description because I've only just bought a bag of it myself. So a link up on the screen and one in the description if you'd like to get it. Now the next thing I need to do is to label it, because we all think we're going to remember and we never do. I know I never do. So it's always worth putting a label on it so you know what you've sown. And these will go into my propagator to germinate. The next thing I'm going to be sowing is some broccoli. I've got a Calabrese variety here. Actually, it doesn't say it's Calabrese, it says it's Atlantis. Very similar to Calabrese though, it looks pretty much identical. I grew some of this last year. It was really cheap seed. I think I got from Lidl or Aldi or somewhere. We love broccoli in this house, and I don't know if, when I grow broccoli, you get the big main head. Once you've taken the big head out, I leave it in the ground and I take all the little side shoots off for quite a long time after the big heads come out. And I was picking broccoli until probably September or October. So anyone who follows my channel will know that, you know, don't just whip it out. It's not like cauliflower, whereas as soon as it's produced its main head, that's it, you don't get anything else. The great thing about broccoli is that it just seems to keep producing, which is absolutely amazing. I like things that keep producing over and over again because it's less hassle to have to put more things in. So there we go, so that's another little tray. A lot of my trays are all reused from other things that I've got seeds in as well. I do buy pots sometimes, but I find when I get things, it's just as easy to save something that you've already had. It's a lot cheaper, isn't it? We have to spend enough money on our gardens, don't we? So if we can reuse things. I really like the shallow pots because they're just much easier for seedlings, and obviously when things get bigger I save these other pots as well, and because people know that I do a lot of gardening, I often find pots that people don't want on my doorstep and all sorts of other things that other people don't want, but I always find a home for things. Even if I don't want them, I always give them to someone else to help them out. So I just pop a few. I don't want too many in there, but again, I'll start a few off, and then when these get a little bit bigger I will pop them on, and if there's too many for me, then we have an allotment table, and I have a lot of friends that grow things as well, so I love sharing my seeds. That's one of the nice things about having your own allotment. Not only can you share some of your plants, so share some of your produce, you can also share some of your plants as well to encourage other people to grow their own fruit and vegetables as well. So they are in there. I just gently pat it down so I don't knock them off like that, and then again more vermiculite. So just a little tiny pot, just gently shake it on, and I just find this way easier than using compost. The other good thing about this is when you water them, and also when you water little seeds like this, you water and you let it soak up. The smaller the pot, the water will just rise to the top to the seed, and you know when the water has soaked all the way through because the colour changes. So that's another really handy thing of using vermiculite. You know that you've watered them enough, and whether they need watering as well. So again, make sure that I label them up. That's my broccoli. So I'd also love to hear what everyone else is planting now. Have you got favourite things that you like to plant this month? Is there something that you would always plant this month, hell or high water, or are you going to be trying something new yourself? It'd be nice to know whether I'm inspiring you to try something else as well. One of my staples is chard, and I love to do the bright lights chard. You've got rainbow chard or you've got bright lights chard, both of which are equally fantastic. Again, another ridiculously versatile vegetable that you can use for so many things. I have got some in my allotment at the moment, but it's starting to get a little bit straggly and it will start to bolt. So before that happens, I've decided to start a little bit more off. So the last thing I'm going to be sowing today are some tomatoes. I've already got some tomatoes sown already underneath the grow lights, and my Roma and my honeycomb, but today I've been planting tigerello and also some red cherry. Like I think I said before, Roma is by far my favourite, and tigerello is also absolutely gorgeous, as is honeycomb, and who doesn't love a cherry tomato? Now, if you've enjoyed watching my video and you want to check out what else I'm doing, I've just started growing mushrooms, and we've got a video on how to grow mushrooms.